on TikTok, and I will cut this video so they can actually be on TikTok, but someone asked me, about downtown Tacoma and what's one thing that can improve downtown almost instantly. That's a tough question, and I don't think I have the answer to that. What I will say is Tacoma would do best if it focused on transportation and street activation. If it doesn't focus on transportation and street activation, you're going to have a lot of issues in terms of future development and attracting companies to Tacoma. Here's what I mean by that. Downtown Tacoma, when we're looking at the retail landscape, is mostly vacant storefronts. And that's not due to lack of interest. It's more or less due to property owners holding on to properties, not wanting to rent them out, and they're wanting to get tax benefits from it. It's a tax write-off. So you have storefronts that have sit for years and there is no takers. And yet you see, large amounts of other places that are developed at the mall, Point Ruston, and even with its issues, and you have people who rent those spaces out as quickly as they can. So my biggest concern for Tacoma is there's not any measures currently in place that force these landlords to make sure that their spaces are available, that they're clean and approachable, and that they are rented out. Not having them rented out and some of these people live in other places, they don't care, but it depresses the area. It creates undesirable effects. You end up having people, because there's a vacuum, you have homeless that sleep out in front of some of these places. Why? There's no store. So no one's going in and out to say, hey, you shouldn't be here, or create an environment where that's not something that should happen. And this is nothing against homeless or anti-homelessness. It's just saying that this is a problem. If you're looking at heightened crime, it's because, especially downtown, some of that's due to not having enough people walking around on the street. If you have those spaces opened and you're able to have actual commerce in those spaces, it helps the city's budget because all those businesses are contributing to that. B, downtown is arguably one of our biggest tourist areas in the city, and you would have more people venturing out and doing a lot of different things. That creates another effect, if you will, because you have an ecosystem that's kind of healthy at that point. So then you're able to attract big employers. They want to be where the action is. And given everything else, Tacoma's in the best position for this, right? We have all the storefronts that are available, all the mixed-use buildings going up. They have retail spaces available. So there's plenty of space, new, old, whatever. You have great transportation. We have a lot of tourist attractions. We have been mentioned in national, regional, and local publications, our downtown, in terms of arts. All of that stuff is perfect for us. We have all the things needed. All the hard stuff is here. The biggest thing to make an improvement is making sure that landlords don't just sit on properties and ignore requests for views. Like when people call in and say, hey, I'm interested in your property, they ignore it. And I think the entire downtown regional growth center, so from the Dome District, Brewery District, where the university is, downtown core, Hilltop, Hillside, Stadium District, whether it's owned by Pierce Transit, because Pierce Transit has 2 spots down there too. It doesn't matter. If it is street level retail, it needs to be rented out, or those property owners should face a penalty. And not only a penalty, which progressively gets worse the longer it stays vacant, there should also be some sort of activation. Pop-up shops should be going on in those spaces so that people can kind of see what they're about. There should be art in those windows as well, so that people aren't just seeing a desolate spot. So it hurts other business owners who are nearby. It hurts other properties that are nearby, because their properties are not generating what they could, right? They're not even getting the rents that they possibly could because a business can say, well, that whole building over there is vacant. So it doesn't help us at all. There's no benefit of having vacant retail spaces whatsoever. It gives the impression that downtown Tacoma is still on the slide, that it's just going down. It gives the impression that nobody cares. We lose out on so many different tax dollars. We're losing out on vibrancy in a good, strong, healthy city. So there should be policies in place. There are other cities that have done policies like this where they make sure these property owners do something. And some of those are here locally. Seattle has done some of that, mostly to get more businesses back in spaces that were recently vacant. But places like Everett, there are cities across the country that have policies in place that say you can't just sit on property and collect tax write-offs, that you have to activate it. Otherwise, you're going to face consequences. And those need to be enforced, not just talked about, but strictly, heavily enforced. And there's mechanisms to do that. There's ways to make sure that happens. And I think that goes across the board. I don't care if it's a new development even. Give them 90 days, to start doing what they need to do to get something in there. And if they don't have something in there within 90 days, then they're going to pay a fine. And that lasts for a certain amount of time. That fine increases the longer that it stays vacant. So you may have 6 months at a fine every month of this amount. Then if you get nothing in there, and you still have to have art in that space that rotates. So every so often, every 3 months, that art needs to update. So 3 months go by or 6 months goes by and you haven't gotten another, a tenant in there, then another escalated fine goes up. And the purpose of this is to say, either if you don't want to rent your space out, sell the building. But we don't need vacant retail spaces downtown. We just don't need that. The other part of that, and you should actively be searching. And if they say, well, there's no businesses interested. Well, you had opportunity all these other years to do something and you didn't. So now, doesn't matter if the economy is going bad or not, you're going to face penalties that you need to pay because there's no reason for, and I've seen numerous businesses. I was in the industry that try to get into these spaces. I've tried to, and you good luck. Or the prices are so astronomically high. Again, you can have the prices set whatever you want, but if you're having prices that are $30 a square foot, you're setting those prices artificially high so that nobody that's a mom and pop business can afford it. That's fine, but you're going to pay a penalty for that. You're going to pay a fine for not having your space rented. If you have a realtor that's in the way, they're going to cost you money because you need to make sure your space is activated. I strongly believe in that type of policy. The other thing that downtown needs in terms of vibrancy, I would say, is better transportation. We have a waterfront that's not being really utilized that way. And it would make a lot of sense to have water taxis. I've talked to some officials about that. There needs to be water taxis. If we're really wanting to push Tacoma in a direction where we're going to have maximal growth, I think there are certain things that need to be done. And there are things, for sure, that are contributing to that. But I think there's always little tweaks that you can do. I think there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are really making a lot of great things happen. But there also needs to be this push, this need to continue to keep leveling up when you can. And so I think that some sort of a downtown waterfront taxi service would do very, very well. And I think it would connect areas that need to be connected and be a tourist attraction as well. People like that type of thing. So those are my suggestions. And I think that if we were to do those type of things, downtown would be always even more so in the spotlight. It would create even more reasons to visit Tacoma and downtown. It would invite families to spend more time down there. But we have to have people that are willing to make those decisions and willing to see it through And I think that that will be the major difference. Developers will keep building down there, but we have to make sure that they understand that part of the requirement is that you need to make sure that your retail spaces, if they're available, now you can have, private amenities or whatever like the Rook did. Trent Development, they built that big building down below, is all amenities for their tenants. Totally cool. That's fine. But if you're building it and saying we're just going to have a cold shell down there, then you need to make sure that you are actively recruiting businesses to come in there, and that can afford to build that cold shell out. Otherwise, there's going to be penalties that have to be paid. I strongly believe in that. And it should drive the prices down. The price for retail downtown is way too high. It doesn't matter if it's at the university. It doesn't matter if it's in the Dome District. It doesn't matter if it's in the core of downtown. All of it is artificially inflated. And I think that the only way to really start to make that change happen, and yeah, should the university pay fines for vacant retail spaces? Absolutely. It absolutely should. Because there's no reason for the prices, in my opinion, to be as high as they are at the university for retail spaces. And those spaces, really, I mean, if you think about it, it's the public is paying for the university to have all that stuff. So no, there should not be these high retail prices. And again, I think when we have realtors setting the price, of course they're going to set a high price. They want the benefit of that. But again, personal and self-gain is not more important than the best healthy city that we can have. I don't care about if a realtor gets paid or not. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care if a landlord takes a small dip in what they're getting off of their retail spaces. Don't care. What I do care about is small businesses being able to survive. I care about families being able to go out and buy different things they want without prices being so high, because businesses have to jack the prices up to justify the rent. I like to see spaces that are truly activated and there's people and there's vibrancy, not just a bunch of shuttered spaces that look like we have a dead downtown when there's so much work that people are doing. We have so many people behind the scenes in the city that are busting their ass every day to try to make a difference. We even have elected officials that are busting their ass trying to do things that can kind of help, but it doesn't work if you have property owners, and not all, but you have property owners that refuse to budge. They don't even answer callbacks. They don't do nothing. They don't work with anybody. They just literally have the space available because it's required when they develop, and they leave it and they collect double benefit. Not only do they get the multifamily tax exemption if it's a mixed use project, but they also get tax write-off due to the space not being rented out. And they say, well, Tacoma's such a sad city that we try, but we're not getting anything for that. But meanwhile, their price is so artificially high, plus you have to do so much site work in those spaces. A mom and pop can't afford to do that. They can't afford to spend $100,000 just to put walls in underneath and pipes. And cold shell means it's just the outside exterior. There's no internal walls. There's no plumbing. There's no nothing. You have to build bathrooms, everything on the inside, and that can be several hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mom and pops can't afford to do that. That's just out the gate. So yeah, those property owners need to step up and actually finish those spaces and have those spaces rented out, or face continuous fines that will help strengthen the city anyway. Those vacant spaces need to have actual artwork in them, pop-up shops as well, that will keep people visiting and being active. Those are the things I think that would be great. You tell me what your thoughts are. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.